the global food challenges across the world, we will be using this project to analyze the production quantity of selected crops and livestock for over a period of 30 years. This will help us determine if we are producing enough food to sustain over 8 billion people currently in the world, or we have to do more. So the first thing we'll have to do is to extract this agricultural data set from FAOSTAT of the United Nations. And of course, we're going to explore, clean this data, analyze it, and also visualize this data to create this insightful dashboard. So here I have launched my Power BI desktop. What we need to do is to go to FAO website to download our data. So I'm going to open my browser. So right here in my browser, just type this link and it's going to take you directly to the production indices where we need to extract this data. So here we have crop and livestock products. Under the regions, I've selected world. So this world list is going to give us the list of countries across the world. Then, of course, if I scroll down, you can see for the elements, I've selected production quantity because we're looking at the production quantity. I can also scroll down to select the items. So there are several items here. They are both crop and livestock products. They are both processed and raw. You can choose any one that you want. But for the sake of this project, I have selected about 24 items that consist of fruits, some food crops, and of course some livestock. Then the years that we're going to look at is a period of 30 years from 1992 to 2022. This is the period of our data. So after selecting all of these variables, what I need to do, okay, for the output type, I want it to output as a table, and the file type, I want it to be a CSV file. And of course, I don't want 1000 separator in my data. So still under the output type, under the output formatting options, I can just unselect these flags, the nodes, codes, and units. I do not need that in my output. Then when I'm done with that, I'm going to click to download this data. So I'm just going to wait for a few seconds and the data is going to download. So I've downloaded my data and I'm going to open this CSV file right here. I'm going to click to open it. So this is the downloaded data. For the domain, we have crop and livestock products. Then for the area just lists out the countries across the world. The element we're looking at is the production quantity. The items are the food, the crops and livestock that we've selected for the course of this project. Then of course the year column, we have the year column and we have the value. The value here is the production quantity for each of these items, and they are actually measured in tons. So we have our data set right here and we have to import it into Power BI. After extracting our data, we're back to our Power BI desktop. So I'm going to select Get Data and I'm going to scroll down and select text/CSV. Then I'm going to select the data set, the FAOSTAT data. I'll click to open. After clicking to open our data, this is the dialog box and I'm going to click to transform this data. When I click to transform this data, this is going to open up our Power Query editor. And right here, I just need to change some of these columns. For the items, I'm going to change it to food products. Let's just call it food products. That's it for the item. And for the value, I'm going to rename it to production quantity. So that is it for our value. Then right here, I'm also going to check to make sure that the data type is actually correct for all of these columns. So for the data type of country, it's correct for elements, food product, and for year. So the data type for year is showing as all number, and we know that year is a date data type. So what we need to do is to convert it to a date data type. In order to do that, I'll first of all click the all number icon. Once I click the all number icon, I'm going to convert this first to text. So we'll convert this first to text, after which I'm going to select it back and then convert it back to a date. So this is going to ask us if we want to replace the current or we want to add a new step. So we want to add a new step to this. So I'm going to click here. And once we click to add a new step, it has actually converted this year column into a date for us. So after changing the data type, the next thing we need to do is to import another table. So I'm going to click on New Source. Then I'll go ahead to select text/CSV. We need to import a table. So this table, I named it as country continent. This is going to connect and we're going to import it to Power Query Editor. So right here, I'll come over to where I have transform and then click to use first rows as headers. So once I click that drop down, I'll select use first rows as headers because my first row is our header. So basically done with this particular table. This table just shows us the table of countries and their corresponding continent. Then the last table that we need to import for this project. So I'm going to click on new source and click on Excel workbook. Once I click on Excel workbook, I'm going to select food crops and livestock. Then I click to open it. On this navigator, I'm going to select the sheets and it's going to show me the preview. Then I'll click OK. Once I click OK, I'll also come back to where I have the transform group. Under the home tab, I'll click the drop down, use first rows as headers, then I'll select that. Once I select that, it has upgraded our first rows as our headers. So right here on this table, we have the food products. This food products consist of the 24 selected crops and livestock that we're using for this project. Then the next column is the food product URL. This is just a URL of all these food products that we will use in this report as well. So I can quickly come to this sheet and rename this as food products. So for now, we're done with exploring and cleaning this data in Power Query. If there's any subsequent transformation that we need to perform or carry out, we can always come back to Power Query Editor to do that. What I'll do now is to click close and apply. I'll select close and apply and it's going to take us to this report view. So I'm going to select this to click apply changes. So right on this data pane, you can see the 3 tables that we've imported from Power Query. What I need to do now is to click on data view. So once I click on this data view, I can actually explore these tables to see that what I imported is the same table I have here and the columns are not broken and everything is intact. You can also confirm your data type right on this data view. So what I'll do, I'll come over to our FAOSTAT table. Once I come to that table, I'm going to select the year column. So once I click on the year column, you can see that the name is year column, the data type is date, but I want to format it differently. So I'll come over to where I have format. I'm going to select this and then scroll down to year. So I want to format it as year. So I'm going to select it. And once I select, it is going to convert that to only year. So we have our year column right away. Once I'm done with that, I'll go ahead to, I'm going to minimize that. Then I'm going to click to open the food product. Under the food product, I'll select the food product URL. Then under the properties right here, I'm going to select this and scroll down and format the data category as image URL. This will help us show the images when we're using it in our dashboard. So after doing that, next thing I'm going to do is to click on the model view. So on this model view, I'm going to cross-check and make sure that the relationship between tables are correct. So once I over here, it's going to show the columns between the 2 tables that are being used for this relationship. So we have a one-to-many relationship from food products table to FAOSTAT data table. Then of course, for this other table, we have a one-to-many relationship as well from the country continent table to the FAOSTAT table. So our relationships have been created correctly. After that, I'm going to click on our report view. So right on this report view, we're going to start creating our report. Remember, I said this report is going to be a very simple, straightforward report, but very insightful. So what I'm going to do now is to import a background that I have created in PowerPoint. So I'm going to click on Canvas background. If you don't know how to create backgrounds in PowerPoint, please check the card above. You'll see a well-detailed video where I show you how to create backgrounds that you can use in your Power BI report. Then I'm going to scroll down under the canvas background. I'll scroll down and select under image. I'm going to select that and select this particular image that I created and now click to open it. Once I click to open, I'm going to, for under image feed, I'm going to select fit because I want it to fit the background. So this is it for our report. This is how it's looking. Everything is blank, so we're going to start right away. The first thing we need to create is to create certain measures. Measures are just like KPIs. They're just summary of the values that we have in our data set. So since we are creating few measures, I'll create it directly on the FAOSTAT table. I'm just going to select the table and then click new measure. So the first measure is going to be total production quantity. So this total production quantity will show us the production quantity for the period of 30 years that we are looking at in this particular report. So we're going to use the sum. We use the sum function, and of course we'll use the value. Okay, sorry, not value. We rename the value to production quantity. So we use the production quantity, product quantity rather. Then I'm going to press enter. Then the other measure I'm going to create, I'm going to select the table once again. Then I'm going to select new measure. So the next measure, we want to create total food product. So this total food product is just the unique food products that we're using in this report. So we're going to use a function, which is our distinct count. And we're going to select the food product itself and then close the bracket and press enter. Once we press enter, we need to create one more measure. This last measure is going to show us the current production quantity as of 2022. Data set is from 1992 to 2022, so we have to look at the current production quantity as well. So I'm going to type here current production quantity. So right here, we're going to use the calculate function. So under the calculate function, we're going to use our total production. So we're going to use our total production quantity. So the next argument, I'm going to type a filter function. Then under the filter function, we want to filter the FAOSTAT table. And I'm going to put a comma sign. The filter that we need is to filter our year. So I'm going to filter the year. So I'll filter that and put a bracket. Once I put a bracket, I'm going to write equal to, we need this filter to be equal to 2022. Then I'm going to close this bracket and close it one more time. So this is going to show us our current production quantity. So I'm going to press enter. So for now we have our key measures. So let's start building our dashboard. I'll click here to show the visualization so I can select any one. So I'm going to come here and select the new card visual. Once I select the new card visual, I'm going to drag it and place it right here. So the first thing I'm going to bring in is the total production quantity for the first data. Then the next thing I'm going to bring is the current production quantity. And of course, I am also going to bring in the total food product. So once I bring this in, I'm going to format this particular card visual. So right here, I'll come to the layout. For the layout, we want it to be a single column. Okay, we want it to be a grid. So in this grid, we want the maximum row to be shown should be 3 and the column shown should be 1. So this is basically how we want it to look like. I'm going to drag it here and resize it. So I'm going to resize that. So after resizing, for the callout values, I'm going to change the font size. We can change the font size to 35 for the callout values, and then I'm going to make it bold. Then for the label, I'm going to expand this label. Once I expand this label, I need the position of the label to be below the value. So once this label is below value, I can now format it based on a particular card. So I'll come over to where I have apply settings to. I'll select the series I want to apply this settings to. So I'll come over here under apply settings to. I'm going to change some series. So I'm going to select current production quantity. So for the current production quantity, I have to select the label for it. So we need to type a new label for it. I'll type current production quantity. I'll put it in parentheses 2022 because that is showing for only 2022. Once I include that, I'm just going to scroll down and select text wrap. So once I select this text wrap, we'll see that there will be no overflow of text. Instead, it's going to wrap up right within this card. And what I also need to do is to align this properly. So I'm going to select for all the, let me select for all the series. Once I select all the series, I'll click on the values and I want to align it to the center. So I want all of them aligned to the center. Then I'm going to scroll down. So after scrolling down, I need to change for the last series as well. So I'm going to select total food product. For the total food product, I'm going to change the label. I'll call it total food products captured in this report. So that is it for our total food products captured in this report. What I need to do is also to wrap up this text so everything is displayed right here. So once I'm done with the colored values, I'll go over to the cards. So for this card, I don't want them to have a background. I'm going to toggle the background off. Then I'm also going to toggle off the borders. I don't need the borders right now. Then I'll toggle on the accent bar. Once I expand this accent bar, I can change the position of this accent bar. So I'm going to select the position and make it to be at the bottom. I'll also change the color of this accent bar. So for the color of this accent bar, I'm going to give it this particular color. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to increase the width of this accent bar. So I can just increase the width to be a little bit bold, and that is it for our KPIs. Next thing we are going to look at is production quantities of crops by country, and we're going to use a map visual to visualize this. So what I'll do, I'll just come to Azure map. That is the map I want to use. I'm going to select that, and once I select it, I'll bring it right here. Then I'm going to expand this map. Once I expand this map, then under location, I'm going to open up this. Then I'll bring down the area down to this location. The area indicates all the countries included in this particular data from FAO. Then I'm going to click on format because we need to format this particular visual. So once I click on format, I'm going to turn off the bubble layer. I'll turn off the bubble layer. I'll scroll down under build and bring down the production quantity to our tooltip. So I'm going to bring down our production quantity onto our tooltip. So I want to format this particular map as a field map. So I'm going to toggle on the field map. And once I toggle on the field map, I'm going to expand this because I also want to change the color. So coming to colors under the field map, I'm going to expand the color section, and then I'll click FX to show the conditional formatting dialog box. Under this FX, under the format style, I am going to select gradient. We want this field to be based on the production quantity for each country. So I'm going to also add a middle color. Then I'll proceed to change the colors of this particular map. So for the lowest color, I want it to have this particular color. So I'm going to type the color code right here. Then I'm also going to change the color for the middle value. Then for the highest value, I will also change the color for the highest value. So once I'm done with this, I'm going to select OK. So after selecting OK, let me just readjust this map and place it here. Then I'll proceed to continue formatting this map. I'll come to size and style. Then I'm going to toggle off the background. Then I'm going to scroll down. For the title is going to be production quantities of crops of food products by countries. Once I'm done with the title, I'll scroll down to map settings. So under map settings, I'm going to change the default style to another style. I'm going to scroll down and select blank accessible. So that is the settings we want our map to have. So that is it for our map setting. So I'm going to click on view. Okay, there's nothing there for me to change. So right here, still under the field map, I'm going to scroll down to where I have the border. So this border, I'm going to make it transparent. It's a black border, but I'm going to make it transparent. So you can actually increase or decrease the transparency based on what you want, or you change the color of the border. So this is how I want the color of the border to look like. So right now we see that we have production quantities of food products by countries. So yeah, if you overrun all those shaded areas, you're going to see the countries and of course the sum of production quantities for that particular country. So we're done with the map visual. The next visual we're going to create in this dashboard is a slicer visual. So we're going to use a new slicer for that. I'll come over to my build pane and then I'm going to select the tile slicer. I'm going to select this and I'll bring it down to this particular point. So with this tile slicer, we're going to display the food products that are being captured in this report. So what I need to do is to come to our food products table and select the food product. So once we select the food product, it's going to display as a tile. Then I'll come to the format pane and then expand the images. Once I expand the images at its default state, we're going to add a data. So this data we want to add the food products URL. So once I click to add the food products URL, you can see the image URL displayed here. So for the image feed, I'm going to change it to normal. So after changing that to normal, I'm going to scroll down. Let me expand it one more time. So for the position of the image, we want to bring it down. We want to bring it to the bottom. So I'm going to change the position of the image to the bottom, and once we're done with that, I'm going to collapse this image section. So once I'm done with the image section, I'm going to expand the button section. Under the button, I'm going to toggle off the fill color. I don't want it to have any background color. So once I'm done, I'm going to collapse the button section. Then back to our layout. So under our layout, we want it to have a grid layout. We want it to have a grid arrangement, and the style we want is a table. So for this table, we want that the maximum number of rows shown is going to be 3 and the maximum number of columns shown is also 3. So you can see this particular visual right here. So another thing I need to format is to come to the callout values. Under the callout values, I'm going to scroll down to where I have label and toggle on the label. So once I toggle on the label, I'm going to add data to this label. And our data is the production quantity for each of these food products. So I'm going to toggle that on. Once I'm done, I'll scroll up again. And under the horizontal alignment, I'll center it. I'm going to center it and also make it bold. Then I'm going to scroll up. I'm going to scroll up a little, collapse the callout value. Then under the tooltip, I want to add the production value. I want to add the food product and the production value itself. So I'm going to bring the food product right here, and I'm also going to bring the production value right here. So if I overrun any of these food products, it's going to show a tooltip. So my tooltip is not showing. I'll come back to my properties, and of course my tooltip was off, so I'm going to toggle it on. So right now, if I overrun any of these products, you're going to see the name of the food product and of course the production quantity. So what I need to do is to come over to where I have this tooltip and edit the way the tooltip is displaying. So I'm going to edit the name on the tooltip. I'm going to remove the first. Then for this other one, I'm going to do the same thing. So right now, I can just come over to change this title. Then for the title, I'm going to name it Production Quantity by Food Product. So that is it, production quantity by food product. I can also decide to come back to these buttons and toggle off the border or change the color of the border. So if I toggle off the border, you can see since we have a table style, it's still showing some demarcations, and this is perfectly okay by me. The next visual we're going to create in this report is going to show us the world food production by year, and with that we're going to use the line chart. So I'm going to click to select this line chart here. I'll bring this line chart and align it to this particular part of the report. So for the line chart, we're going to bring in the production quantity. We're going to bring in the production quantity to the x-axis, and of course our year value is going to our x-axis. This is going to show us the line chart. So it's just showing us a progression over the years. So I'll proceed to format this line chart. In order to format this line chart, I'll go to my x-axis first and then toggle off the title. We don't want the title to show in the x-axis. Then I'll also scroll down to, I'm going to collapse this x-axis, go to y-axis and toggle off the title and the values. I'm toggling off the values because I'm going to bring on the data labels. For the grid lines, I do not like the grid lines I'm seeing right here, so I'm going to toggle it off, and they are vertical grid lines, so I'm going to toggle that off. So after toggling off the vertical grid lines, the next thing I am going to do is I'm going to turn on the data labels. Then with these data labels, I can also decide to turn on my markers. So I'll show markers for all the categories here. So I will decide to increase the size of this marker. With this line chart here, we can see that there's a continuous increase in the production quantity of these selected crops, okay, over the years. So we can decide to forecast for the next 10 years to actually predict what the production quantity would look like. Would there be a decline in the production quantity, or will we have a steady increase, as the case may be? So what we need to do under this line chart, I'm going to scroll down to where I have the forecast and forecast section. I'm going to toggle on the forecast section. Then once I toggle that on, I'm going to expand this forecast section. I don't want the confidence shade on, so I'm going to turn it off. I want my confidence lines on. So that's my confidence line. So our forecast length is 10. We want to forecast for the next 10 years. So our forecast length is 10. And my confidence interval is 95. So you can always change the confidence interval. You can change it for as high as 99% to be really sure that you are making the right predictions. So for my confidence interval, I want it to be at 95, and that is okay. So after that, I'm going to click to apply. Once I apply this, you can see our forecast length. So if I hover on this, it's already forecasting for 2024. We have the upper bound, and of course we also have the lower bound prediction. So if I go over here, you can see that we have up until 2032. So that's for a period of the next 10 years. What is the production quantity going to be like? Then right on this line chart, we can decide to add a little summary to this particular visual. So I'm going to click to insert a text box. I'll click on this text box. I'm going to bring this text box right here and resize it. Then I'm going to toggle off the background of the text box. Then I'm going to type a summary of this visual. Before I type that, I'm going to change the font size. So I'll change the font size to 24. Then I'm going to type the summary of this visual and readjust this text box here. So this is just showing a summary of this particular visual. here. Then on the line charts directly, I'm going to change the title to be World Food Production by Year. The next visual we're going to bring in is going to show us the top 5 countries with the highest production quantities. So we're going to use a clustered bar chart for that, and I'm going to resize this clustered bar chart to this point. I'm going to resize this clustered bar chart, and right on this clustered bar chart, we're going to bring the area, which is the country, to our y-axis. I will bring our production quantity to our x-axis. So this is going to give us the bar chart. So we'll come to this filter pane to filter for the top 5 countries. So I'm going to expand this area and click under the filter type and select the top end. So I'll type 5 and then bring in the production quantity to our data field, then and click to apply the filter. So once I click to apply the filter, this is the production quantity. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to collapse this filter pane. Then I'll come over to format this particular bars. To format these bars, I'll scroll down and then under the color, I'm going to click on conditional formatting. So for conditional formatting, we want to give the gradient color based on the production quantity. So I'm going to select this. I want to add a middle value. So that's our middle value. That is our lowest value. Then for the middle value, I'm going to select and give it a color. Then for the maximum value, we'll also give it another color. Then I'm going to select OK. Once I select OK, this is the bar chart showing the production quantity, the top 5 countries and their production quantity. So for the title, I'm going to edit the title to indicate top 5 countries by production quantity. After the title, I'm going to expand the y-axis because I want to remove the title of the y-axis. So I'm going to toggle off the title of the y-axis. I only need the values right there. Then I'm going to collapse the y-axis. For the x-axis, I do not want the title on, and I also do not want the values. So I'm going to scroll down and then toggle on my data labels. For this data label, I'm going to expand it as well. Then I'm going to apply this to all the settings. For the position, I want it to be inside the bars. So this is how I want the data labels to show inside the bars. So this is it for the top 5 countries by production quantity. One more visual we're going to add to this food production report is a clustered column chart, and this is going to show us the production quantity by the continent. Of course, we've looked at the top 5 countries by production quantity, so we're going to see the continent and how they are doing in terms of food production. So I'm going to select the clustered column chart, and with the clustered column chart, I'll resize it and bring it to this point. So I'm just going to resize it here. So I'll resize and align it right here. Then I'm going to expand. So with this, I'm going to add for the x-axis. Our x-axis is going to be the continent. So I'll come to the country continent table and then select the continent to my x-axis. Then my y-axis is going to be the production quantity. So I'm going to select this. This is it for my y-axis. So what I need to do is I'll expand my y-axis and then toggle off the title. Then once I'm done with that, under the title of the clustered column chart itself, I'm going to give it the name production quantity by continent. So that is going to be the title of this particular chart. Then I'll scroll down to format it some more. For this formatting, okay, for the x-axis, let's go to the x-axis. We don't want the title on, we only want the name of the continent for the x-axis. Then I'm going to scroll down to where I have the columns. Then to format these columns, I'm going to select conditional formatting. So under the format style, for the gradient color, we want to base it on the production quantity. I'm going to select the production quantity. For our lowest value, we want it to have this particular color, and the highest value should have, let's look for color for our highest value. The highest value should have this particular color, and then I'm going to select OK. So with these particular colors right here, I need to do something to it. So I'm going to scroll down and toggle on the borders. So for this border here, I'm going to match the column color with the borders itself. Then under the color of the column chart, I'm going to give it a transparency. Then for the borders itself, I'm going to increase the width of the border after giving the chart transparency. So this is going to be the width of the border. So I can decide to increase the transparency as much as I want. Then I can also decide to increase the width of this border. So this is it for the production quantity by continent. For the selected food products that we have in this particular report, Asia has the highest production quantity for those products, followed by South America, North America, and of course Oceania is actually the last. So I'm also going to include a little summary to our column chart. So I'll select this text box, copy and paste it. Once I copy and paste, I'm going to bring it down here, then resize it so I can type the summary or little insight for this particular chart. So I'm going to delete this off. Then I'm going to type this summary here. So here we have that Asia has the most food production quantity, with China being the leading country, and of course Brazil is the most producing country for these selected crops in South America. So with this production report, we need to make it more interactive, and by interactive we need to add a slicer. So for the slicer, I want to use a custom visual. So in order to add a custom visual, I'll come to where I have the build pane and then select to get more visuals. So once I select to get more visuals, I'll allow the marketplace to open in this dialog box. So under this marketplace, I'm going to search for the slicer I want. If you know the visual that you want, you can actually type to search. If not, you can scroll and search on the marketplace. So I need the text slicer. Okay, so this is the text slicer I need. So I'm going to select this. Once I select, I'll allow it to load. So with this, I'm going to click to add this to my report. So I've added my text slicer to this report. I'm going to bring it here. I'm going to select the text slicer and bring it to this report. So with this text slicer, you can actually add multiple items. So I'm going to readjust this slicer. I'm going to bring this slicer to this point. Yes, we want to place it right here. Then I'm going to expand this slicer. So with this slicer, I'm going to add the area to the field and also add the food product to this particular field. So we have two different fields that we want to search for. So under the size and style, I'm going to toggle off the background of this slicer. Once I toggle off the background of this slicer, then for the input field where you have to type the name of the country or the food products that you need to type, we need to put a placeholder string. So for this placeholder, I'm going to type to search for country or food products. So the placeholder font color, I'll just make it black. I'll make the placeholder font color to be black. So that is it for the placeholder font color. Then for the general section, I'm going to increase the font size. So I'm going to increase the font size of this. I'll make it up to 14. So this is what we have for our text slicer. The placeholder says type to search for country or food product. So right now, area is selected, which is for our country. I can decide to type Nigeria because I want to search for Nigeria. So once I type to search, I'm going to click to search for Nigeria. And you can see that Nigeria is showing, the map of Nigeria is showing right on our Azure map. If you hover on it, you see the country and of course the production quantity for this report in that particular country. With this, you can edit the interactions between these visuals. So with this text slicer that is being selected, I'm going to click format. Then under format, I'm going to select edit interactions. I don't want the top 5 countries by production quantity to interact with this slicer. I just wanted to show the top 5 countries. So I'm going to toggle this off. So it's going to reflect back the top 5 countries. So you can always edit any other parts that you want to edit. For the continent, I will allow it to show. So you can also make any other adjustments which you need to make. So if I want to type another country, let's say I want to type United States. So I'm going to type United States and then press enter. So this is going to show me the map of United States and of course the production quantity. So you can always search for any other country that you want to check the production quantities for. One more thing I'm going to add to this report is to add a year slicer. Of course, this is for only text. That is why we cannot add a year value to this. So we're going to add a year slicer so people can select each year and check the production quantities of this food product for those years. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to select this. I'm just going to select the simple slicer that we have in Power BI and bring it down here. Then I'll click to add the year. So once I add the year, I can decide to change the slicer settings. So with the slicer settings, I want it to be a drop down. So we can always select this drop down and select the year that we want to select. So I'll bring this right to this point and just readjust it. Then for the size and style, we're going to toggle off the background and then this is how we want it to be. So we can always select it here to select a particular year. So when you select a particular year, it's going to show you the report for that year. And since we have a year slicer here and we have world food production by year in this line chart, we are going to disable this interaction. So with this year slicer selected, I'm going to select format. Then under edit interaction, I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to turn this interaction off. So if you select any year, it's not going to affect the line chart visual. This is how you can create an insightful report that answers basic questions, especially when you work with historic data sets like this. So this is our world food production report. If you want to work along with the data set, check the description box for it. I hope you learned something and subscribe for more of this insightful content. Thank you so much.